This is a COVID-19 induction training for special needs assistants from the Department of Education. Before you do this training, it is required that you do the induction training provided for all school staff. This module is intended to provide greater detail for special needs assistants in schools. The aims of the SNA Induction training module. This module covers issues of particular interest or relevance to special needs assistants. SNAs should also complete the COVID-19 induction training for school staff in primary and special schools or post-primary schools, in addition to this module. This module is based on the requirements of the Return to Work Protocol and the interim health advice from the Health Protection Surveillance Centre for the safe reopening of schools. Additional supports for schools. Schools will also have access to a procurement framework and funding to support hand hygiene and PPE needs within schools. All PPE, consumables and equipment requirements of schools under this roadmap and in line with the public health advice will be available through the framework, including hand sanitizer dispensers, hand sanitizer liquid, hand soap, disposable paper towels, wipes, gloves, face masks, face coverings or visors, aprons, and detergents. Additional capitation funding is being provided to support enhanced cleaning in schools. The department is also supporting the replacement of all absences of SNAs in school settings. The NCSC are currently developing resources to support children transitioning back to school and children transitioning from preschool to primary school. They'll be available on the NCSC website at the following link, which is also available in the description of this video. Additional considerations for those with special educational needs. For children with special educational needs, maintaining physical distancing in many instances will not be practical or appropriate to implement. The focus should therefore be on emphasising that parents or guardians should have a heightened awareness of signs, symptoms, or changes in baseline which suggests illness or COVID-19 infection, and where symptoms are present, children should not attend school. Children who are unable to wash their hands by themselves should be assisted to clean their hands or use sanitizer as appropriate. Class bubbles and pods. The risk of spread of infection may be reduced by structuring pupils and their teachers into class bubbles, that is, a class grouping which stays apart from other classes as much as possible, and discrete groups, or pods, within those class bubbles, to the extent that this is practical. Generally speaking, the objective is to limit contact and sharing of common facilities between people in different class bubbles and pods within those class bubbles as much as possible, rather than to avoid all contact between pods, as the latter will not always be possible. To the greatest extent possible, pupils and teaching staff should consistently be in the same class bubbles, although this will not be possible at times. Sharing educational material between pods should be avoided or minimised where possible. The practice of staff members moving from class bubble to class bubble should be limited as much as possible. Face coverings, masks and visors. All SNAs will be required to wear face coverings or, in certain situations, clear visors in the classroom. Clear visors should be considered in certain situations, for example, staff interacting with students with hearing difficulties or learning difficulties. Schools should consider the specific circumstances where the use of medical face masks to EU standard EN 14683 may be more appropriate for SNAs, where staff by necessity need to be in close and continued proximity with students with intimate care needs. While staff may wish to use their own face covering on a day-to-day basis, schools should have available a stock of additional disposable or multi-use face coverings, or if appropriate, face visors, available for staff in case a backup face covering is needed throughout the day or where required on an ongoing basis. It is not recommended that children attending primary school wear face coverings. Face coverings should not be worn by any of the following groups: primary school children, any person who has difficulty breathing, any person who is unconscious or incapacitated, any person who is unable to remove the face covering without assistance, or any person who has special needs and who may feel upset or very uncomfortable wearing the face mask, for example, persons with intellectual or developmental disabilities, mental health conditions, sensory concerns, or tactile sensitivity. Use of PPE by SNAs in schools. PPE will need to be used occasionally or constantly due to the nature of certain work activities or work areas. This might include roles such as assisting with intimate care needs, where a suspected case of COVID-19 is identified while the school is in operation, where a staff member in a high-risk group is attending the workplace and maintaining social distancing is difficult. Appropriate PPE will be available for dealing with suspected COVID-19 cases, intimate care needs, and for first aid. You should be aware of where and from whom to obtain PPE in your school if required. You should change your face covering, visor, or PPE if you move between different class bubbles or pods, or clean it with a disinfecting wipe where appropriate. You may consider designating a different face covering or visor or PPE for use in each different bubble or pod, and having a designated place in the class or school to store each face covering, visor, or PPE. The use of disposable gloves in the school setting is not generally appropriate, other than when providing healthcare to children with medical needs or intimate care needs. Routine use does not protect the wearer and may expose others to risk from contaminated gloves. Routine use of disposable gloves is not a substitute for hand hygiene. Guidance on the use of PPE is available from the HSE and should be included in your school's COVID-19 response plan. Public health advice on the use of PPE. The Health Protection and Surveillance Centre has developed a number of online videos and information posters on the use of PPE. They can be accessed at the following link, which is also available in the description of this video. The HSE have developed detailed guidelines on the use of PPE in disability support services. These guidelines are available at the following link, which is also available in the description of this video. The use of PPE children with medical needs. Staff who provide healthcare to children with medical needs in the school environment should apply standard precautions as per usual practice. This includes the use of disposable gloves, aprons or gowns, face covering or masks, and other equipment as appropriate to the task being performed. The use of a face covering will conceal facial expressions and can make communication difficult. The wearing of a visor as an alternative to a facial covering may be considered where there is a concern that physical distancing cannot be maintained, there will be prolonged close contact, and/or that exposure to fluid or respiratory droplets is likely. Hygiene and cleaning in schools. General information. All staff will have access to cleaning products and will be required to maintain cleanliness of their own work area. Staff should thoroughly clean and disinfect their work area before and after use each day, and staff must use and clean their own equipment and utensils, for example cups, cutlery or plates. Additional advice and dedicated resources will be provided to schools in relation to the enhanced cleaning required generally in the school to minimise the risks of COVID-19. In terms of disposal, current HSE guidance recommends that waste such as cleaning waste or tissues from a person suspected of having COVID-19 should be double bagged and stored in a secure area for 72 hours before being presented for general waste collection. Equipment used by children with special educational needs. Some children may have care needs, physical or behavioural, which require the use of aids and appliances and/or medical equipment, for example toileting aids, moving and handling equipment, and respiratory equipment. Where cleaning of aids and appliances is carried out in the school, it is recommended that a cleaning schedule is provided, detailing when and how the equipment is cleaned, and the cleaning products to be used in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Cleaning equipment. The following points can guide the development of such cleaning schedules. Equipment used to deliver care should be visibly clean. Care equipment should be cleaned in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions, and cleaning is generally achieved using a general-purpose detergent and warm water. Equipment that is used on different children must be cleaned and, if required, disinfected immediately after use and before use by another child, for example toileting aids. If equipment is soiled with body fluids, first clean thoroughly with detergent and water, then disinfect by wiping with a freshly prepared solution of disinfectant and rinse with water and dry with a disposable paper product. The use of shared equipment, for example toys. All toys should be cleaned on a regular basis. This will remove dust and dirt that can harbour germs. A cleaning schedule should be developed to regulate this action. Jigsaws, puzzles and toys that pupils with special educational needs may be inclined to put in their mouths should be capable of being washed and disinfected. Toys that are visibly dirty or contaminated with blood or body fluids should be taken out of use immediately for cleaning or disposal. Clean toys and equipment should be stored in a clean container or clean cupboard. The manufacturer's cleaning instructions should always be followed. The cleaning procedure for toys. Wash the toy in warm soapy water using a brush to get into crevices, rinse in clean water, and thoroughly dry the toy with a disposable paper product. Toys that cannot be immersed in water that are electronic or wind up should be wiped with a damp cloth and dried. In some situations, toys or equipment may need to be disinfected following cleaning, for example where a pupil has placed it in his or her mouth, or where it has been soiled with blood or body fluids. Toys used where a case of COVID-19 has been identified should be disinfected. If disinfection is required, a chlorine-releasing disinfectant should be used, diluted to a concentration of 1000 ppm available chlorine. The item should be rinsed and dried thoroughly with a disposable paper product. Cleaning shared equipment. Art equipment. Where possible, students should be encouraged to have their own individual art and equipment supplies. Shared supplies should be limited to named groups and, if at all possible, not shared between groups. Electronics. Shared electronics such as tablets, touchscreens, keyboards should be cleaned between use. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for all cleaning and disinfection products used on the electronic devices. Consider the use of wipeable covers for electronics to facilitate cleaning. Music equipment or instruments. To the extent possible, instruments should not be shared between students, and if sharing is required, the instruments should be cleaned between use. Wind instruments should be cleaned and disinfected between use. Shared book or library policy. Where practical, each pupil should have dedicated school books. Textbooks that are shared should be covered in a wipeable plastic covering that can be wiped with a suitable household cleaning agent between uses. Children should be encouraged to perform hand hygiene after using any shared item. Library books, which are used in the classroom or school library setting, can be returned to the shelf and made available again without any delay. Working with the lead worker representative. There will be a lead worker appointed in your school. Strong communication and a shared collaborative approach is key to protecting against the spread of COVID-19 in schools and looking after the health, safety and well-being of staff and students. The role of the lead worker representative is to represent all staff in the school, regardless of the role, including SNAs, and be aware of specific issues that may arise in respect of different staff cohorts. If you have any concerns or observations in relation to the COVID-19 response plan in your school, control measures or the adherence to such measures by staff, students or others, you should contact the lead worker representative who will engage with school management. Thank you for taking part in this training. We hope you find this useful on your return to school. Further information is available at www.gov.ie/back to school.